All right, folks, it's May 15th, 2024, and I'm here to report and tell you that we have another 5X for XRP on the way. For context, I'm referring to the 5X that we already did from 50 cents to $2.50, and now from 250 to 1250. And actually, my targets for this bull run are actually quite a bit higher, but I just wanted to frame this one for everybody to remind the new folks and everybody else that's here in XRP, whether you think you got in late, you're not late at all. This thing is still going to do another 5X. We might even do another 10X this bull run, but I'm going to keep it conservative. And we're going to be taking a look here at this market, coming back down here today, but taking this opportunity to remind everybody that despite today's pullback of 5 cents, 10 cents, is there any sense of panic over here for the real ones in the XRP community? Absolutely not, because we know what we hold, and we know that we have at least another 5X, maybe another 10X in store for us this bull run. So without further ado, let's get on into the update. I appreciate everybody for stopping by. We will be back live tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern for our regular live show. Still have a little bit of the snivels, but we're rocking and rolling, and we're not going to stop. So we'll see you here back again tonight, but let's get this update here. Wholesale inflation shows the biggest decline since 2020, but the good news is unlikely to last. So today we get the producer price index, which drops 0.5% in April due to lower egg prices and cheaper gas. So they say that wholesale prices posted the biggest drop in April since the pandemic in 2020, but economists say the decline in inflation appeared to be a one-off that might not be sustained if tariffs persist at current levels. The producer price index dropped 0.5% last month, but the decline was largely tied to falling egg and gasoline prices and a quirky category that measures certain business profit margins. The rate of wholesale inflation in the past year, meanwhile, slowed to 2.4% from 3.4%. That's the lowest level since last fall. So, wholesale prices fell a slight 0.1% if the volatile categories of food, energy, and retail trade margins are omitted. The so-called core rate is seen as a better predictor of future inflation. Now, we move on over to dissect and decode this economic data. And you know the spin that the mainstream media is going to try to put on this one. And what I'm observing and what we're going to see here is that the retail sector did see some small increases in prices, but this was offset in the service industries, essentially. So this is Anna Wong. She's an economist here. And she says that normally on PPI release, we just focus on the categories that are important for calculating core PCE deflator. But April's release is interesting in its own right, as it broadly reinforces the story we saw in the CPI release earlier today. There is increased pass-through of tariffs and good prices. So basically, some increases in prices are being passed on. The tariffs on the wholesalers are being passed on to the retail consumer. There's a little bit of that, but inflation is still trending down because we have deflation in services, which is offsetting those tariff increases. The net impact is disinflation. On services, final demand prices for transportation, warehousing, and construction are very soft. Now, what's happening is the consumer's tapped out. And I believe that any sort of, small increase that you would see from the tariffs is going to be offset by that disinflation in the services. And it's going to be, basically offset by a weak consumer and a weak demand for all of these goods that we already were buying less of because we're tapped out. No, don't take it from me. Take it from the data right before us. U.S. household debt surged by $167 billion in Q1 of 2025 to a record $18.2 trillion. Over the last 10 years, total household debt has soared by a whopping $7 trillion. The Q1 jump was driven by mortgage debt, which rose $199 billion to a record of $12.8 trillion. Student loans increased $16 billion to $1.6 trillion, an all-time high. On the other hand, auto and credit card declined by $13 billion and $29 billion to $1.6 trillion and $1.2 trillion respectively. Americans have never been more indebted. So, despite some folks panicking and the mainstream media telling us that it was the end of the world because of these tariffs, which have now all been reduced, might I add, right? Now all of this, 100%, 200% tariffs on China, it's all been brought back down. And remember how tariffs actually work in practicality. The Nike shoe that gets produced for $10 in China and Nike brings over to America, they're going to be paying a 10% tariff on their wholesale price. So Nike has the shoe produced for $10. Now the tariff's 10%. So Nike has to pay $1 extra for said shoe that they're going to flip to you and me, Joe Blow, that's dumb enough to buy a Nike shoe for $160. Now, if we see an increase in those prices that is more than that bump that Nike had to pay, right? Nike had to pay $1 more. If they bump it by any more than that, well, that's simply just corporate greed and price gouging that we've already seen persistent since 2020 when we've had supply chain as an excuse. They've still been using supply chain all the way up until now. And now it's tariffs that are causing supply chain, and tariffs are going to be the excuse. But the problem, and what we have to understand here, is we already had a tapped out consumer. You're seeing, what are the two things that they really can't get rid of? Mortgage debt, right? That increased by $199 billion in Q1. And student loans increased by $16 billion to a record all-time high $1.6 trillion. See, the consumer can't get away from that, but the consumer can have their car repoed. The consumer can have their credit card cut off. So when you look at household debt, auto and credit card declined by $13 billion and $29 billion. Meanwhile, mortgage and student loan went up. See, this is a tapped out consumer, and this is why I was not worried about these tariffs really increasing our prices back home by all that much or impacting us in any sort of significant way, because we already had a tapped out consumer, which was leading to deflation, as a matter of fact, right? And that's why we're starting to see the inflation metrics, whether it be CPI or PPI, are falling. Now, serious credit card delinquencies rise to 12.3%, the highest level since 2011, basically as we were recovering from the great financial crisis. The consumer is tapped out. Doesn't matter whether or not the tariff, gets passed on to the cheap crap that we're getting from China or wherever it may be. No, because we were already buying less of it, right? Despite the mainstream media telling you to panic about that. What we really should have been worried about, and what I am concerned about, is our Main Street economy. This is from Darth Powell. He says, people don't get it. This isn't the end. This is just the beginning. Student loans just started reporting after 5 years. FHA loans finally get foreclosed on in October for the first time in 5 years. Layoffs are just beginning after I have warned for months about jobs posting. While Main Street was, listening to mainstream media, God forbid you've been doing that, but for those that were, and they were listening to all this fear and all this fear mongering about the tariffs. Meanwhile, it was our Main Street economy, which already was not on solid ground, already had consumers getting tapped out. And now student loans are due. And not only are they due, we're going to start reporting them to the credit agencies. That's already live now. And then FHA loans, which weren't being foreclosed on, and the Biden administration was actually propping up, those are going to be foreclosed on coming up in October. See, this is all part of the debt, currency, and liquidity crisis. And this comes back to the big problem. Despite what Trump and his administration have done, bringing down inflation, the trajectory is coming back down. That's great. But the problem is our economy still has to be rebuilt. The problem is that we have a bunch of debt that has to be refinanced. And that's why you're seeing that auto and credit coming back down, household debt coming back down. And it's consumers that can't refinance. It's consumers that can't get new credit. But it's also a problem for our government in $36 trillion of debt, $150 trillion of unfunded liabilities. And with our interest expenses now outpacing our defense spending, we have over $6 trillion of short-term debt this year that has to be rolled over. That's the problem, not the tariffs, not the big bad orange man. The problem is the $6 trillion of debt, short-term debt funding that Secretary Janet Yellen and the Biden administration dumped on us, right? The problem is the Main Street economy that was already faltering and covered up with economic data that was fake. That was the problem. And so we have to understand this as we position ourselves for what is set to be a weak Main Street economic outlook for the foreseeable future. But what I've been talking about is the bounce back and the disconnect from Main Street and Wall Street. That's what we have to prepare ourselves for. Now, getting into crypto, I do want to give a shout out here to Chainlink. They did get JP Morgan to use Chainlink. Tokenized assets are inevitable, in creating seamless methods for institutional investors to purchase these assets across chains is crucial. So this is Zach Ryan's community liaison from Chainlink. And despite our differences, and I've actually called this guy out on some of his BS, some of the crap that he said about XRP in the past, I do want to give Chainlink a little shout out for the fact that they did get JP Morgan to use their platform. Now, I do want to note, though, for everybody who might be worried, oh, Chainlink chose JP Morgan, not XRP. Oh, no. And, did Chainlink pump on this news? No, not at all. I'll show you the Chainlink chart right here. This is from CoinMarketCap. And maybe I'll show it, maybe I won't. Let's see if it pulls up. There it is. Here's Chainlink on CoinMarketCap. In the past day, it's down 3.7%. On the week, well, it is up 7% on the week, right? But, despite this news, that's great. They got JP Morgan. You're not seeing anything incredible happen price-wise on Chainlink. So for all the Debbie Downers that think that this is just a phenomenon that happens with XRP, where good news comes out for Ripple XRP and price doesn't do anything, price comes down, same thing taking place with Chainlink. But I did want to give credit where credit's due. More adoption on the way, though, not just JP Morgan. We have MasterCard partnering up here with MoonPay to bring 150 million plus checkout counters available for stablecoin usage through MasterCard branded cards. So this is a big partnership here between MasterCard and MoonPay, working with stablecoins. And in fact, I'm actually going to be having a session on stage at XRP Las Vegas with, that's going to be Keith Grossman from the MoonPay team. We're going to be having a conversation up there. So I'm excited to tap in and get an update on this, along with everything else that MoonPay's been working on. But now's the time where you're seeing the traditional players are showing up, and there's no, misconstruing whether or not they're interested or not. They're diving right on in, whether it be JP Morgan, whether it be MasterCard, they're coming in, and they're coming in a major way. Now, this is Scaramucci at the CoinDesk Consensus 2025, speaking on the impact that Fairshake had in the 2024 election in regards to the stablecoin legislation that's now in front of us. He says, I find it very hard to believe that the Democrats are not going to be at least crypto neutral by the time we get to the 2026 election season. Take a listen in.
I just want to remind people that Fairshake, the crypto pack, came in 24, dumped $250 million in. Other crypto aspirants gave the president something like $150 million to help him win that election. And I find it very hard to believe that the Democrats are not going to be at least crypto neutral by the time we get to the 26 election season. So that's the reason why I'm optimistic. But I do, Jonathan and I have a lot of experience with this stuff, and we can go haywire when you're in the Congress, but I think the incentives are there to get these bills passed.
And we saw that was in large part from Ripple and a few other companies. Ripple bringing over $50 million to the last election. And, actions have consequences. If the Democrats go ahead and don't get this stablecoin bill passed, they're going to get swept again in the midterms, in my humble opinion, because you're looking at an issue that shouldn't be bipartisan. This is people from both sides of the aisle, no political affiliation. We just want to be able to use our money freely. And that would be in the form of stablecoins and other currencies. And it's a matter of national security as well, too. So if the Democrats don't get their act together here, and we're hearing reports from the street that there's a few things that are being worked out right now, and it looks like we might even get a vote to bring the Genius Act forward here, either tomorrow or next week. So it looks like some progress is being made. But, the point being here, if they decide to make this mistake once again, it's going to have big consequences. And that Ripple has a lot more money where that came from. That $50 million that they had in the last election, that's just the start of what we can accomplish. There's a lot more of that on the way. Brad Grindhouse says, love starting the day seeing my friend Stuart Alderati getting the public recognition he deserves for the amazing work he's done here at Ripple and in support of the crypto industry. He's referring to this article here from the National Law Review. You see right here, profile on Stuart Alderati, the man behind crypto's biggest court victory. And I just wanted to bring this up to show you guys that we're dominating the elections, we're dominating in the courts, and we're just going to continue with that momentum. Like I said, 50 million, there's another 500 million behind that to fund elections, to fight in the courts, right? Ripple spent $200 million fighting the SEC, didn't stop them from cutting checks over 50 million plus in the election. So if they want to play this way, we can take it there, and we're going to continue with that momentum. And you're starting to see Ripple get the recognition that they deserve for fighting that case, for standing up and, basically leading to massive victories in that election cycle. A lot more on the way. But as I titled this episode here today, another 5X for XRP. Why am I bringing this up? What's the context behind this? Well, I was inspired by this post right here from this person, Peach Cobbler on X, which that's a good name. I love me a good peach cobbler. But he says, anyone else remember the last time that the Cafe First Ledger team dropped a banger product and attracted a couple 100,000 active users to the XRP ledger, and coincidentally, the price ripped a 5X shortly after? Says just a coincidence, I'm sure, right? Sarcastically. Joey Wallet coming to a ledger near you. And we're looking at the Joey Wallet, right? Joey Wallet is set to go live here probably later this month, if not this month, next month. It's we already have the beta test live, and I haven't taken a look at it myself. But the main focus of this wallet is going to be ease of use. And it inspired me to make this video to remind everybody, whether you've been in XRP for a while or whether you're new here, that we do in fact have another 5X on the way for XRP. And I think that we're actually going to 5X our users over the next couple years as well. Right now we're at about 5-6 million wallets. I expect that to go to 25-30 million wallets just in the next couple years. And I think that the Joey wallet's going to be a big part of that. Right now, folks want to focus on, institutional partners. The next bank that Ripple's partnered up and all of this. And I think that we underestimate what happens when we bring in another 20 million users to the XRP. I mean, let's take baby steps, for crying out loud. Let's just talk about doubling up, right? Going from 5-6 million wallets to 10 million wallets. How quickly can we reach that milestone? I think that the Joey wallet is going to help us take a quantum leap there. Maybe we could say take a hop to 10 million. For those of you guys who don't know, a Joey is a baby kangaroo. So we might take a hop from 5 million wallets to 10 million wallets to 20 million wallets based off of how easy this wallet is going to onboard new users. And with that is going to come significant price action. We saw it was a perfect timing when First Ledger went live and they created this platform for XRP memes. That was right at the end of October, into November. That coincided with President Trump coming in. And so when you get Trump coming in and you get some XRP memes and a little bit of activity here, it's that perfect storm, which led to XRP blasting off to $3.40. It was actually more than a 5X, right? It was more than a 5X. And we do have another 5X on the way. My targets are actually higher, but I'm just going to keep it conservative for this video. And I want to let the new folks coming in know that, yeah, we are on our way to $12.50. Am I going to dread on today's price action XRP down 5 cents, 10 cents, whatever it is? No, you need to zoom out and you need to stop playing around, okay? You need to just focus on how much XRP have I accumulated. And if you knew that XRP was going to do another 5X, if you knew XRP could potentially do another 10X this bull run, how would that frame your portfolio and how you view XRP and your holdings of XRP? You got folks that are wanting to play around with little bags and trade here, trade there, take a little profit. I think that you're missing the forest through the trees, focused on making a little profit when you should be focused on accumulating more of this asset before we get another 5X, before we get that 10X. And I know we're not supposed to talk about it, but before we get another 100X. You didn't hear me. You heard me correctly. I said another 100X. I wouldn't dare put that into the title though, because that might offend some people. We don't want to do that. It is coming. And I want to remind everybody what happened, yes, when the First Ledger team dropped the XRP meme platform. Now they're dropping the wallet. But I want to remind everybody what happened the last time that Trump tweeted out about XRP too. I put out this post yesterday. Remember the last time Trump tweeted out about XRP? Now you see both Trump and Ripple closing deals in the Middle East at the same time. Is that a coincidence? Is that a coincidence that Trump and Ripple are both in the Middle East right now, actively closing deals? We know that President Trump's deals are for trillions and trillions of dollars. You think that Ripple might have some deals taking place that might be talking about trillions and trillions of dollars? I think that there might be something cooking there. You basically got the military protecting President Trump and Ripple at the same time. I know we're crazy to think such things, right? I find it very interesting. But I say, despite Politico putting out fake news about Trump being furious over the XRP Strategic Reserve post. That's right. If you missed it, Politico put out some fake news hit piece last week, cited from an anonymous source, saying that President Trump was mad that a Truth Social post was put out that XRP was going to be in the strategic reserve. Now, we've seen the mainstream media resort to citing anonymous sources here time and time again, saying that Scott Bessent was going to leave Treasury. He was mad and he was upset and he was going to leave Treasury. Fake news. They said that we were going to fire Pete Hegseth from the Department of Defense. Also fake news. They've been doing this to try to undermine this administration. They hate America. They hate making America great again. They hate it so much that they've come up with hit piece after hit piece of fake news cited from anonymous sources. And you know what else they hate? XRP. You know what else they hate and don't want? A level playing field. And that's why we've seen, whether it be the crypto bros, whether it be the Bitcoin bros, whether it be the mainstream news, right? Coming out with hit pieces and fake news time and time again about this administration and about XRP. And I don't believe it to be a coincidence at all. It's a targeted attack against everything that makes this country great and what's going to make this country a hell of a lot better, which would be XRP and the level playing field. I said, despite Politico putting out fake news about Trump being quote unquote furious over the XRP Strategic Reserve post cited from an anonymous source, clearly we see them working together towards a level playing field. XRP will flip Ethereum this cycle, and these people are going to lose their minds. Lock in. And what I share here is the chart, XRP's market cap. When President Trump put out that tweet that XRP was going to be in the strategic reserve, we saw XRP's market cap grow by over 44 billion that day. One day, XRP pumped by 80 cents. And the market cap blasted off, grew 34%. And from a dollar standpoint, 44 billion of market cap growth. Folks, you better prepare yourself for the next time President Trump mentions XRP, because he has not come forward and rescinded his statement about XRP being in the strategic reserve, despite Politico's fake news, despite the Bitcoin bros crying, despite everybody else that's tried to put out their lies against XRP. We have not seen President Trump rescind those comments. And in fact, what are we witnessing before us? President Trump and Ripple in the Middle East signing trillion-dollar deals as we speak. These people are going to lose their minds when XRP does another 5x and flips Ethereum. It is inevitable. It is going to happen 100%. There is not any doubt in my mind about this taking place. Please position yourself accordingly and lock in with us. I'm going to be back live tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern for a full breakdown and questions, comments, and answers for you. So come on back. I appreciate your support. If you appreciate what we're doing, make sure you like all these videos. Help us out by sharing them out far and wide. And all of our community resources are available at zachrector.com. I appreciate your support, and we'll see you tonight. God bless you all. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.